So I did this last night, but there was music playing. They want copyright stuff, and no, I'm not letting anyone else monetize off of this. It's too important to me. So I'm gonna redo it now. I gotta go to bed, but it's on my mind. So, um, now I know that last one was all. I'm so scatterbrained. I'm sorry. Like, when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I had this whole thing with not ever taken any medicine. I've always just gotten older and self-medicated until I'm sober now. I got a medical marijuana card, and that's about it. I I stay away from everything, and I'm so happy that I did because it led me to this. Um, and most of the story that's going to come out is not an assumption. I need everyone to know that this is from my point, what I've seen with my own eyes, and I, oh, here we go. So, we get to Superior Street. Dusty gets taken away, and we're over on South Oakland, and that's where everything went down. Well, first, I want to say we moved out to here. Um, we moved like right down the street from where I'm at now, actually, and he had gotten me and him and my mom and Dustin, my brother, was real little, a trailer out there. Well, at some point, he and my mother started using. Everything was fine for a while, and then I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I know one night, um, I was young too, but me and him had taken some LSD. I had it. I offered it to him, and he like we had a good time. It was me, him, my mom, my brother, my little brother, and my mom didn't know. I think she ended up finding out later and being mad at us and calling us assholes and stuff. But soon after that, they started using crack again. And I just remember coming back one day, and I must have been like 16, 17 maybe, and the whole house was trashed. The whole trailer, front to back, except my bedroom. Which I always did think he respected me for that because he wouldn't trash my stuff, but still he was trashing our house, like our family's house, and that was like outrageous, right? And so he does that. Well, my mom ends up going to an aware place. I don't know what happened in the midst of that for us to go there. I was young, I wasn't paying attention to that, but I went with her. It was me, her, and my little brother, and I think that's when his parents really started hating my mother for not letting him be around Dustin because of them fighting and her having to go to that shelter. Like it was me, her, and Dustin. Well, up the street from us, after about a month of being there, maybe two, um, they gave us our own little house. Actually, we weren't allowed to go upstairs, but they gave us our own little space to live in this one house, and no one else was in there. It was just us. But we weren't just allowed. We had the kitchen, bathroom, and the living room, and we slept on this like little bed thing. And after a short time, some friends up the street, um, that kid from earlier that I told you on Superior Street that I beat up his dad for picking on him or for beating him and stuff. Charlie, his dad. Now they're older now, not much, but I can't even say that. But his dad wasn't drinking no more, so they took us in. And I remember actually he wasn't drinking anymore, but one day I walked in and he had wild Irish Rose and he was passed out. But past all that, we were staying there, and my mom and Frank soon started dating again. and he uh he starts coming to visit her over there. I'm fine with it because again, I don't even know what happened for the house to get trashed. I just knew they fought. I don't know why. I just remember going in and seeing the house trashed. Um, but and I always remember my room was never trashed. Uh, this happens 1 month. That's what I'm saying. That it's about to come up. So we're staying at that house, and he ends up getting us the house next door because it was for rent. The upstairs apartment was, and it was 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom actually, but it was like the top part went up the steps, and on the left was 1 bedroom, which was mine, and then the other one could have been Dustin's, and it was being set up like that actually. Well, we lived there for a few months. I want to say we got there maybe in like May, something like that. But because I remember being outside in the summertime and doing things that I did, but I was and it not being school or me just not going to school. No, I wouldn't have been in school by now. I was yeah, I was 8. I had just had my 18th birthday when we moved in there. Yes. So it was earlier than that. It was like September. Yeah, cuz we did spend the okay, cuz we was at their house. So yes, around May. I'm right. Around May we got this house next door. Something like that. But the summertime comes. I'm out of school. This is all done and over with. And Frank comes off the road one night. I'm upstairs and I hear him come in, and it's not like that son father thing. Him and Dustin maybe, hi dad, but me, it's just my stepdad. Like he ain't nothing to me really. He is okay with me as a friend, but past that, I'm not gonna hey, So I'm just upstairs. Well, I hear him, hey hun, how you doing? Blah blah blah, and as it is, she's like, I hear her because I'm up there, and then I'm playing my PlayStation, but I can hear, and she's like, real, I can hear her lower, what, wait, what, and come here. And she's like, why? I want to show you something. I can hear this, and he says he has a hurt tooth, and he got some stuff to party because he wants to numb it, and does she want to party a little? She was doing so well. And he kind of like put it right in her face. So she's like, yeah. And he's like, all right, well, where's Shane at? Where's Shaner? She's like, he's upstairs. And right when I hear, I'm like, what? Did you guys call me? And he's like, no, 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 you're good. Hey, I'm back. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, you're good. So, and that was it. Like, she from the time that we were in the trailer out here to back there to that house to there, she was sober. I mean, my right hand to God, I watched it. She and Dustin was there too. But Frank put her back on it. He brought it in. And here's how that happened. Now, Frank was truck driving. And while he was up in Kalamazoo, he meets this guy in Chicago at a truck stop. I know all this for fact because I've met people, and I know there's more story coming to that on the Chicago guy, but he brings him back, telling him he can set up down here and sell dope, and he'll help him. And that's where this dope came from, and that's why he had an abundance of it, and that's why they could party. Well, he had to go back on the road at some point eventually, right? What was my mom to do? Just sit there and not do anything again? Like, she's hooked again, and that was her main, you know. So he leaves and goes on the road. Well, while he's gone, she's cracking it up nonstop again. To the point where I come downstairs one day and I tell her, because she's taking all the Enfamil and all the baby formula and putting it in bags. And I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, I gotta take this stuff back to get more stuff to make spaghetti sauce because I messed it up. Mind you, my mother was one of the greatest cooks that anybody that knew her at the time ever knew. And she taught me all the methods that I use. And I mean, hell, I'm a chef, so it says enough right there. But she knew how to cook. And on this day, with her, she had to go get more stuff to make the sauce because she messed it up. I already knew what was going on. You know, I'm playing dumb because I'm the kid in the house, but I put my finger in this so-called sauce and I taste, and it tastes like shit, vinegar, ass, and feet. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you like this. I love you and I'm your son, but if I find out you're fucking up, I'm gonna hit you. I'm that mad, I'm going to hit you. Now, I never until this day stood up to my mother. It was always do as I say, not as I do. I got bipped. She hit me in the head with a pan one time and called me panhead for like 3 months because she was a biker. So she called me a panhead. Thinking it was funny. Anybody out there knows that when you catch it, you know what it is. But she called me a panhead. And actually, when she did that time, I ran away. I was like 13 years old, and we lived in Brookfield, and she did that to me. And then I was upstairs. I got so mad. I wrote her a letter and told her that she was um, nothing but a witch. And remember from the kid thing, and she was a child abuser, and I was afraid that she was gonna, you know, uh, do something like to that. I was so mean in this letter as a 13-year-old. But I ended up running away. I jumped out my window. I got on the roof. I jumped off that little roof, ran up over the hill, ran down West Hill, ran back up the other hill, got to my uncle's house. The whole time, I'm abusing myself in ways because I'm so hurt and I'm so mad. And I get to my uncle's. I'm like, look, I can't be at my mom's no more. I'm like, I'm mad. I can't do this. She's being outrageous, and she was partying then too. But my uncle's like, okay, but what's he do? Goes in the other room and calls my mom to come pick me up. So yeah, fuck you for that one, dude. Anyways, so she comes over in her little fucking Chevy Chevette car she had at the time, picks me up, and I get in the car and we leave and we're heading back over to the house. And she's like, so, you little fucker, you want to run away? And I was like, well, stop hitting me. And she's like, you want to run a fucking way? You want to run away? She's like, go ahead. She reaches over me, unlocks the door. She goes, go ahead, run away. So I go to get out of the car and she grabs me. She goes, you ever try to fucking run away again? Yo, this is real talk, man. That happened. I never ran away again. I was like, what's the point? I'm just gonna get told on and then be then smacked up again, so what the fuck's the point, right? So, yeah, I never ran away again. But on this night, I told her I was gonna hit her. I said, let's just sing spaghetti sauce. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And that night passes. And then I come home one night. I was out with some buddies of mine. We had just had a friend pass away. And we were all hanging out, doing our thing. And we get to my house. There's nobody there. We all walk in, because I always took people to my house. It's about 4 or 5 of us, and my whole house is trashed. Everything's tossed upside down. I'm talking fridge, microwave, TV, you name it, except the PlayStation in my bedroom. So guess who? But this time, as I'm looking around, I look in the bathroom and I see a punch in the mirror. You can see it shatter from a fist, and in lipstick, it says, red lipstick, it says, goodbye, Justine. And I looked at that and I was like, what happened now? I already knew what was going on. So he comes and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I caught your mom with one of them. He says the racist word for, a black person. And I'm like, never been cool like that. I've never felt like that. I've never been raised like that. My mother's never even treated me like, I had to feel like that. So there was so many racist whites around us, but I just never felt like that. And I hate it to this day that it's even like that out there. But hey, the world is what it is. But he said it. And he's like, I found her with one of them. And he says his name. that fucking Chicago. And, he's like, motherfuck this, motherfuck that. I'm gonna fucking kill her. So, like, yo, I don't even know who this guy is though at the time. This Chicago, and the way he said it, I don't remember. I just remember remembering why, because of the city Chicago. I was like, why the fuck? Who the fuck? Because I never heard of this, of this again. But that's okay. So now, here we are. Um, so he's telling me he wants her dead, blah blah blah, and he ends up the girl next door that was our friend that took us in. Well, this night she knows he's mad, and her and Charlie's dad aren't together. They broke up, and she's some hick fucking whore, like whatever. But she ends up leaving with Frank to whatever, go on the road or whatnot. I don't know what, but they left. So I'm like, all right, that's happening because he's not with my mom no more. He's telling me that I have to be on my own. He's taking my brothers and going with his mother. They're going with his mother, and that's it. That's the end. We're done. That's how mad he was. He was so mad that he didn't even want me around. He was like, "You have to be on your own. I don't know what to fucking tell you." And now, mind you, we had a little scuffle, me and him, because when this all started with the crack and shit again, I hated him. I fucking despised him because I knew what happened. And one day, I come in the house shortly after that night. It was like a day or two later, and I had my friend Chase with me, and I had a girl with us, Jen, I believe her name was. She was one of these preppy, popular, pretty girls from school that used to always hang out with us. But that's why I say it, because she was so out. She never seen something like this in her life. I mean, I lived, down near the hood, but she never thought this would happen. But my music was playing, and he comes upstairs and pushes my door open with like force, and he's like, turn that fucking the word again, music off. And I'm like, first off, that's twisted. These are white dudes. Know the fuck you're talking about before you go spreading that word around up here. Get the fuck out of my room, right? And he's like, just turn it down. And I pause it, but I don't turn it down. He goes down the steps. I go to another song, hit play. I don't hear him, but my door gets punched open. I said, turn that mother. I jumped up and blasted him. I just blast this mother. Glasses fly off his face. We start going at it. He grabs me up. I'm in between his legs and I'm trying to pick him up. We go down one whole flight of steps. We get down to the second one, and my mom's standing there, and she's like, what the fuck's going on? And I push him. He stands up. She's like, you two, stop now. And we do. He's like, I want him the fuck out of here now. And she's like, you shouldn't have fucked with my fucking son. You should have known he was going to beat your ass. Right, Mom? You remember that? So, that happens. And he's mad at me. He hates me. So, this night happens. The whole house gets trashed. And it's soon after that, too. And, so, um, he leaves with her. Or no, so the fight happens. So then that night, yeah, he leaves with her. And my mom comes a little bit later, because we're sitting out on the porch now, just BSing. He's gone though, and we're just in like what the fuck mode. But my mom and some black lady show up, and they go to walk in the house. I'm like, whoa. What? I was like, first off, what's going on? Secondly, who is she? Thirdly, you ain't going in my fucking house, bitch. And my mom's like, she's just here to help me get a few things. And I'm like, what the fuck happened? And she starts telling me, Frank did this and Frank did that. And Frank, and basically now I get it. It was his fault. He shouldn't have fucking put it in her face. He knew what she was going to turn into. He knew what kind of crackhead she was. You can't put crack in front of a crackhead's face. Okay, go try it. Go find someone that's been sober for 10 years and go show them a piece of crack. See what they do. See how devoted they are. Go ahead. Try it out. See how you feel. I'm telling you. The only notion that anyone who wants to stay off crack can have is knowing that the biggest plate of crack will not ever satisfy you. Ever satisfy you. There's way more drugs involved in this story. That's just that. This is this one. But so she goes in the house. The lady stands outside with us. Now I'm staying outside with the lady because I don't want her going in my house. But my mom ain't up there too long either. She's up there for just a couple minutes. And I don't know if the plan was to go in there and get stuff to sell. I don't know. While I was in there and I saw what was trashed, I got my brother's PlayStation and hid it because I didn't want anything to happen to it. That was my brother's pride and joy. I wanted to make sure nothing happened to it. Well, she comes out of the house, she has a basket of clothes, and she leaves. When I go back inside, guess what's gone? My brother's PlayStation. I'm fucking heated, right? I'm so mad. And I don't even know this at the time, though. As she's walking out with these basket of clothes, I'm like, so what's gonna fucking happen now? He doesn't want to be with you, and he wants me to be on my own, and what the fuck? And she's like, she's putting the blame on him. And I was so mad at the time, and I put it all together now. I get it now. But then I was so mad at her, because that's my mom, and I knew she was doing better, and I was just the drug, and you don't understand when all these feelings at that age, and you're seeing it, you're fucking mad. You just know something bad happened, and who to blame? Everybody, fucking everybody involved. But she was there at the moment. And I said, where's my brother at? 'Cause she had my brother Van. He was 9 months old at the time. And I said, where's Van at? And she says, he's out back in the car. I hate myself to this day for not going back and getting him. Because I could have stopped a lot of things. But I didn't. I didn't go get him. And I didn't even go check on him. And he was my buddy. He loved me. I love him. But it was a long time ago. But she goes to walk away, and I'm like, you know what? You need to go somewhere and die, because that's what's gonna happen to you anyways. You know how many times it took me to make this video without crying for that part? I looked at my mother in her face, and I told her she needed to go somewhere and die, because that was gonna happen to her living that life. I didn't mean it, that's how angry I was, and I just wanted her to feel it. But this is Justine Lorraine Katruka we're talking to. She ain't feeling it. She looked at me and was like, whatever. Walked away. So a couple of days later, no, this ain't a couple of days later. I end up going out to my aunt and uncle's house, but I'm still coming back and forth. So this is like a couple weeks later, but I don't remember exactly how long. I just know that happened in like July, I want to say. And so one day I'm going down by the area we lived at, and I see my mom's car. And I'm like, yo, Derek, that's my mom's car, follow it. So we cut down into Farrell, and we're going around the blocks down by the hood, and my mom's car ends up coming up a one-way. So I make him go down the wrong way and cut it off. And he does. He blocks the road sideways, and I get out. I'm like, yo, this is some black dude's driving my mom's car. I'm like, get the fuck out of my car right now. This ain't your car, yo. And I mean, he's, saying words to me. And I'm like, yo, I don't give a fuck. You don't get the fuck out. And I reach in past him. I put the car in park, and I shut off the ignition. I pull the key out. I'm like, get the fuck out of my mom's motherfucking car right motherfucking now. Mind you, I probably looked pretty wild doing this at the time. I'm in the hood, only white boy down there, and I got my head shaved at the time. looking like a supremacist, and I'm snapping on this dude ready to throw the fuck down. I mean, he's in my mom's car. I'm mad over the whole situation. I know this is the dope man in my mom's car. It's a straight up for dope. I'm snapping. And he's like, this ain't your finally, and then the cop goes going up the one street. I think they were going up French, and I'm like, Derek, go get that cop right now. And he's seen it. So he's like, all right, man, all right, I'll get out, I'll get out. So he gets out and he goes to the, she's like, let me get my shit out the trunk. I open up the trunk for him because I just wanted him gone at this point. I had the car. That's all I wanted. I had the car. I didn't want my mom having it. I didn't in the predicament she was in. I wanted to take anything I could from her because I didn't want her having that. And plus, by this time, my brother had been found. She had left him at a house for like 2-3 weeks, and he finally called for someone to come get his mom and dad to come get my brother. So everyone's highly irritated with my mother. So I take the car, and as he's getting stuff out of the trunk, see, I remember he had a shaved head, and I remember vaguely what he looked like, but I can't tell you if this was that Chicago guy or not. But I think it was. Um, he has these posters in the back that say "Steel City Soldiers." He has there's like some music promotion shit looking, it looks like to me, and it's in my mom's trunk, right? So obviously he'd been using it. And as he's leaving, he walks up the hill towards these apartments, and he's like, um, "Yeah, they ain't ever gonna get me. I've been here, I've been there, I've been everywhere. Ain't no cop ever gonna get me." Which makes me lead to think again, this is probably him because he's in a new area. Or why would he say something like that, right? So he's gone. I get in the car. I pull it out to my aunt and uncle's. I call Frank. Yo, I got the car. No shit. Yeah. He's like, how'd you do it? I tell him I caught some dude in it. And he's like, all right, I'll take you to the notary and get it signed over to you. I'm like, thank you. That's really nice because I could really use a fucking car, right? Of my own. Plus, we're mad at my mom, and this is how we show you get your shit together. Now, Frank, yeah, he started it, but if he's gonna give me a car at that age, I'll take it. And we go to the notary. The notary says, she's first on the title, so either you need her here or you need a death certificate stating that she died. Frank looks at me and goes, well, maybe we'll get lucky and she'll fucking die, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't mean it. I was just mad, we're mad. It's crack. It's fucking tearing your family apart. I'm young. Anyways, not too long after that, they found my mother dead. They found her dead in Warren, Ohio, strangled to death, half naked, left under a bush. And that was that. I split this into 2 videos. I bawled the last couple times I tried making this. I'm just putting it on. I mean, it takes a lot to say something like this without losing your mind. It really does. And so, I go over. I see where it happened at. We have the funeral. At the funeral, the man who molested her and I watched try to rape her is the one who pays for the funeral, so he's trying to control the whole thing. Frank shows up and gets kicked out. We got my so-called prison dad showing up playing guitar by our casket. Like, it was the most put on show of everybody that I've ever seen. So when Philippe, the so-called grandfather molester, pedophile guy, when he sees what's going on here, he's already blaming Frank for her murder. Why? I don't know. But he is. And he says he don't want him there, and if he's paying for it, he's not allowed to be there. And so Frank's outside. I go outside and I'm like, what's going on? Now, mind you, me and Frank haven't seen each other that much. Like, I seen him for the notary, but besides that, I don't recall seeing him at all. Like, we weren't, like, he told me I had to be on my own. I'm out of my aunt and uncle's. And, I mean, I really want you people to think about this. He's signing the car over to me. He wanted me to be on my own. He signs the car over to me. She's found dead. So, I got a car from him, so yeah, I'm on his side now, and he is at this point giving me his Valium, Klonopin, and Vicodin on the side. He's just like, hey, you want a couple pills here and there? Um, we hadn't partied at all past that yet. Then I start, within a month of my mom passing, I was into some heavy shit. I started dealing coke, big time, to the point where we knew we were being watched. I had wrecked a vehicle. Um, I had I was on drugs when I wrecked it. My mom was just murdered. Like, what do you do when you have nobody, no one to talk to? Your whole family's drug addicts, and your mother was murdered, just murdered. And you, like, what do you do? Off yourself? No, you self-medicate is what you do. Self-medicate. And I did for about 4 years, 5 years maybe. And so while this is all starting, though, my uncle has gotten his money from hitting the lottery, and he offers to get me a loan to get me my own place in Sharon. And of course, I go for it. Small loan. I was working construction, so everything was fine. So he got it for me. I got my own place. I got it set up real nice. I had a nice amount of weed to sell, so I was good to go for a while. And I was still into coke and Xanax and stuff, and that's where the fight with that girl came into play. And the things that I did and said that night, I'll never regret. I regret every day, and I'll never forget, and it's close to my heart. And that's, it, it still bothers me that I was that kind of person when I was on that shit. Um, so the summer comes after my mother's murdered. Frank offers to take me to Leonard Skinner and Ted Nugent out of nowhere. You want to go see Leonard Skinner and Ted Nugent? I'm like, hell yeah. Who wouldn't? Yankee Lake right up the street. Let's go. So we go. We end up meeting up with some friends that night. Eddie Bowles, a couple other people. I just remember Eddie Bowles very well because he was a good family friend and he was there. Well, we leave and we end up going to Eddie's house and getting some more cocaine. Well, getting some. I shouldn't say some more. No, some. Because Frank brings up, hey, you want to go do some powder and fucking chill? I'm like, yeah, how'd you know up? And he's like, I was just guessing, but we talked, I think, at the thing, whatever. We smoked some joints, whatever. It led up to that. So we get some powder. And we go out to his place. Now, he had bought my aunt's from my uncle down on Meek Street. He was with that woman I call my aunt. He had bought her house, her trailer out in Hermitage. So we go out there, just me and him. There's electric out there. We just take a little radio cooler full of Reuniti. Got a whole gallon of Reuniti. And I think we had two of them, I think, but we had full of ice, and we got a teen Coke. So we're out there fucking chilling, having a good time. Well, halfway through it, I hear he's like, hey, what if I told you I killed your mom? What if I told you I went and found her because we were all mad at her and we hate her and I killed her? And he just starts going into this. He's like, and I said I was with my dad and I got away with it. And he's like, what would you do? And he's like, what would you do if I told you I did it, Shane? What would you say? And he's looking for a praise out of me, people. But I'm like, I don't know what I'd do. What are you saying right now? And he just looks at me for a second. I think he realizes that I'm not taking that. And he's like, oh, I couldn't do it, man. I loved your mother. And I was like, yeah, well, I think that's pretty much how it ended, but that was him asking me how I'd feel if he went and found my mother and killed her and got away with it. I just didn't praise him, and I would have probably got every fucking answer that anybody ever wanted that night. But what I did see was earlier, and I didn't put this together, until recently because of other information, but he had a bandage when we was out and about that I seen hanging under his shirt, and I was like, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's nothing, I scraped it on the fence, and just pulls it back up. No. I'm hearing now that that was a stab wound, and my mom on the streets always carried a knife in her purse. So, if you had a knife in your purse, and someone was trying to... Now, he didn't know this. He didn't know my mom on the street. She was only a housewife with him. She wasn't street with him. But if someone's trying to strangle you, and you had a knife in your purse, would you not try to pull it out if you could get to it and stab them? Past that, I don't know if he's ever told the police that this stab wound ever even existed. Now, I found out later that other people have seen what I didn't even suspect back then. But other people have seen this stab wound, and when they ask about it, he says it's personal and don't want to talk about it. Since then, he's been known to be throwing hatchets at his walls in his house, saying that spirits are screaming at him, and he's been in and out of mental hospitals since this happened. But I think since him and his dad had the same name, there was a first, a second, and a third. Him and his dad, second and third. They were both truck drivers. Same exact name. How hard it would be to sign that name if you want to say that you're piggybacking to Kalamazoo, and who is a truck driver that knows this? From where we're at, Sharon, Pennsylvania, to Kalamazoo. I've been on that trip. That's a day trip, if that. Why do they piggyback that? You don't have to. He never had to. He always went by himself. Anytime he ever went, he always went by himself. Or took me. I've been there, Houston, Texas, Wheeling, West Virginia. Kalamazoo's not a piggyback trip. You don't do that. Because you could stay awake the whole time by yourself, is what I'm trying to say. So, if the police took that as a thing, I don't know why they would. Well, but, anyways, that all happened. Now, the night my mother died, I remember I was dating this girl, Tara, and we had lost a bag of weed in her car, and this is out of my aunt and uncle's house. And I'm about to get into some real spiritual stuff here. So, she ends up leaving. My buddy Tom and Tim come out, and we end up going to Big Ben to smoke some weed. So, it's my car and Tim's car, and we're just chilling out there, headlights on. I'm sitting on the hood of my car facing them, and they're in front of a tree. I'll never forget. And we're sitting there, and it's got to be in the morning. It's like 1. And I don't remember the exact time. Forgive me for that, but I go to hand him the joint, and as I'm sitting back in my car, everything all at once goes black. Everything goes black. Boom! I see them two, and they're white hazes. They're white, like what people say, like souls and ghosts and apparitions. Boom, that's what they were. Immediately. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I feel my hood of my car. I'm still there, but everything's black. And I feel down, and I feel to my door. My door's open. It's not shut. I go around my door, and I sit in my front seat. I still can't see shit, but them two are there. I watched that tree disappear last as everything went away, but they were still standing there with that, and they were there. I could still see them when I was in. I was like, where the fuck? What? I'm thinking, what is going on here? I thought something's wrong with me. I thought it was the weed. I don't know. So I lay down in my car across my front seat to my passenger seat, and They're like, what's going on? I reach my hand out and start hitting my cassette tapes. And I'm like, I'm looking for a tape to change because I have music playing. And they're like, oh, alright. And I just lay there. Not for but a minute or two. And it went away. I go back to the house. Next morning, I'm playing Our World, letter R, WORLD. It used to be a game online you played. Kind of like what Elden Ring would be now if it was just like a long time ago with nothing but letters. You walk through and pick up swords and use them and stuff, but you don't see anything, you just type it all in. It was weird, but it was something to do, and we did it. That was Raceland, that's who I was playing with that day. One of my best friends, since I was in grade school. We had the same birthday, a year apart. I was a year older, had our own handshake, brother for life. Never had an issue. His family was always really good to me. I love them people, man. They helped me a lot through this whole thing. But I'm playing that with him. My aunt's over here, and now my whole family's pilled out, except my uncle who's in the military. He's out doing his own thing. But everybody here is zonked, like 24 to the 7, 25 to the 8. Like, it was real. And my aunt, when you're on this thing with Roadrunner, your phone will beat, your internet thing will go off. Like, it was weird. But the phone started ringing, so I clicked for a minute. So she answers the phone. Hello? Yeah, this is her. What? Okay, I'm on my way. Bye. Boom. That's all that went down. She jumps up. She starts getting her shoes on. Where's my shoes at, Shaner? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. They ain't mine. And she's like, all right, got him. Now, mind you, I'm not mad at her for this. When you're pilled out, I've been there. So you're in a different place, and you don't think about what you're saying. You don't think about what you're doing. You're dumb. She gets her shoes on. She's like, found them, and she's heading out the door. She's like, don't tell anybody till I get back. I'm like, tell anybody what? She's like, that your mother's dead. What? She shut the door and she left, right? So I'm looking out the bay window and I see her getting her Jeep and she's leaving. I get back on Our World. I'm like, yo, Raceland, I need to talk to you on some real shit. Click off. He's like, bet. So he clicks off, I click off. I'm waiting for as soon as it does, the phone rings. I'm like, Joey, it's my uncle. He's bawling. The one that was throwing up in the last story. Tell me it's not true. I'm like, what? He says, turn on the TV. I turn on the TV. Yo, that's my mom's face on that TV. I'm like, what the fuck? He's like, Shane, she's fucking dead. And I'm watching this and I see him say that our jogger found her while running across the bridge and suspect of death was a couple hours prior, like early morning. Immediately it dawned on me. I felt her leaving. I seen the other side. For a split second there, for just that moment, I felt her. She did something. She let me know, like, something happened. What's that? What is that? Does anybody out there know what that was? But for that moment, I seen the other side. I seen their haze, letting me know that we don't know that. But that's real. I'm not saying this to make up stuff. I'm not saying this to tell anybody a story. I said everything I said is documented through these eyes. I'm not lying about nothing in any of this. This is all real. So, yeah, they say she was found murdered. Strangulation, autopsy, all that shit will be pending. So, that was how I found out my mother died. Was that whole thing with my aunt, uncle, and the TV. Right? I mean, you get no compassion in life anymore. Like, nobody cares about what people go through. You have to be strong all the time, and you're not allowed to feel hurt. Even if you go through some hell, some real hell. Right? And so here we are years later. I've been telling the police about, I told them within a couple years, because then 2004 comes. Me and Frank aren't talking in between some of this now. But out of the blue, one night, he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I'm just coming off the road. You mind if I stop by?" Now, at this point, I'm with my first uh, daughter's mother, and she's not born yet, but she's pregnant with her. And he comes over and he wants to get coke. Well, I happen to live in the projects at the time down in the hood, and I'm like, "So I can get it." He's like, "Cool, we get some, we do some," and he ends up leaving the next day, and then me and him are hanging out a little bit here and there. But we go over there one day, and I'm sitting up in a semi truck. I stop over, and he, I forget what came up about the whole subject, but he asked if anybody heard anything about my mom. And I said, "Not that I heard of." "Yeah, I heard about that." I said, "Stanley Adams. Now he's a suspect in this. He's one of the other people." And he is the other person because uh, he tried strangling some lady. He killed another lady. She got away, but he killed another lady and her daughter by cutting throats and strangulation. And then he was suspected of killing someone else. And it all happened in Warren. So they at that time he was on the loose before all that happened. My mom was murdered in the midst of that, so they're saying he may have done it. So he is a man in this murder. And I said, "No, just that Stanley guy, and I'm guessing he did it." And he's like, "Yeah, I bet he did." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, why?" And he's like, "I'm just saying." And I'm like, "All right." And by this time, though, I think well, yeah, here's how this happened. So Eddie, the guy that we went and seen that night for the coke when he admitted to me all that shit, or said that to me, um, Eddie is now dead. Now what happens with Eddie is the guy who I grew up with and called Dad, the biker in and out of my life, in and out of prison. 17 years of my life he spent in prison. Um, didn't get out until right around the time my mom died. Strange for that too. So I don't think he's capable of doing it. He's a punk. He's not. He's not built for that. Um. So I just don't think he could have done it. I hope not, at least. But he was with Eddie, and I guess what happened. Here's what happened with this: Chicago, who Frank brought down, is now dealing dope in downtown Sharon. Now, this is known. Frank brought him here now. Like, everyone knows that Frank brought him here now. Like, this is already known in the area. They ask how he got here. He says the truck driver Frank, and people. So people know how he got here. Well, he's at his house dealing dope. My so-called dad takes a gun down to him and trades it to him. Proceeds to take the dope up to Eddie and showing Eddie what he got for that gun. And Eddie don't like what he got for that gun, so he goes back down there to make it right. Eddie gets shot. When he gets shot, my so-called dad takes his vehicle and drives around the block trying to call the cops, or on the phone with the cops waiting for them to get there instead of helping him. And Chicago shot Eddie. Now Chicago's in prison. Right? Did I tell you there was a fucking story here or what, people? Come on. And so now This is what I'm getting at. This is what I think happened. I think that Frank came off the road, caught my mom with Chicago, which is preceding to why he said the N word to me when he said that's what he found her with. So I'm guessing it was probably the Chicago guy, right? And because if Frank comes off the road, asks her if she wants to party and do something because his tooth hurts, and she goes with him to get more dope, where are they gonna go? To the guy he just brought here, not someone else, right? To the guy that he knows has a shit ton of dope. So she probably met him with Frank somehow going down there. Then when Frank was off the road, my mom knew that she could just go there and get more. Frank probably came off the road, caught her with him, and was pissed, right? So Frank probably went and offed her for that reason. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But why did Frank say that to me that day? And then 2004 comes and we go out and do that coke that night. We're sitting in a semi truck. I go in his house. My brothers are there. They're little. And in my brother's room, I take $9 out of his piggy bank. I'm 20 years, 24 at the time. I take $9 out of his piggy bank, and I take 3 PlayStation games, two or three. But the PlayStation games I asked to borrow, the money I didn't ask to take. I just took it, $9. Um, I think I took a couple colada pin that were downstairs in his mother's bottle. But from that day on, after we spoke in the semi truck, and I forget what the whole conversation was, but he felt that it was necessary to, from that point forward, tell my brothers that I was a bad person and I wasn't allowed to be around him because I was just like my mother. And I was a bad person, and he didn't want them to turn out to be like me. So to this day, both of my brothers hate me and despise me for no fucking reason. Just for that reason right there. Why would he turn them against me unless he didn't want me in their life to tell them anything that he might not want them to hear? Um, they start growing up, they get a little bit older. My brother's like 15, I think at the time, 16 maybe, but now Frank's in and out of crack still. He's not no golden boy by far. I already know what the fuck he does. He smokes crack and then he doesn't have any. He has pills to fucking fall down with. So he's fucking doing his thing. They have some guy at their house supposedly trying to steal shit. He shoots this guy with a shotgun. Goes in front of the judge. The judge tells him that he's going to give him a lighter sentence because he knows his wife was murdered. And he feels sympathy for him. Can you believe that? He felt sympathy for the fucking possible murderer of my mother and gave him a lighter sentence. Now, mind you, now this judge thankfully now is dead because he was the most worst, retarded, out fucking landish judge I've ever heard about. He used to put people in jail for any kind of drug charge just because his daughter overdosed on drugs. So his daughter overdoses on drugs because that's when the heroin thing first started being a problem, like pandemic style. And now he takes that on everyone that has a problem. It makes them do extra special time because of that. That's fair, right? Oh, I used to speak my mind on that one because that's pretty fucked up and ignorant. I missed a court date and he put me in jail for 2 weeks just for missing a court date because he knew that after my mother passed away, I started getting my charges. I had a weed charge. I had, oh yeah, the night that they raided my house. They raided my house because me and that girl, when we got into that fight and I blackened her eye, um, she has my probate. She calls them and tells them I'm dealing. And I was. They come in and they find 1.5 ounces of weed in my dishwasher. And they take that, and that weed wasn't even mine. Mine was in the register tied up on strings hanging down in the register. Mine wasn't a little 1.5 ounces. Mine was like a pound. But they find this 1.5 ounces, so I'm excited already. But I'm like, all right, I'm not asking, is that all? I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that's not mine. And it was my roommate's. And They're like, okay, what else did we find? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I'm not saying a fucking word. I got coke in my fucking. I got, check this out. So they leave, take me to jail with them for the marijuana. Well, they never checked my medicine cabinet because there was enough coke in there to distribute out. I would have probably done about a year or three, maybe. I don't know. I had a lot in there. I had it all bagged up too, so it was distribution and everything. But probation's always been dumb and fucking ignorant and stupid around here. Let me tell you. Wait till we get to it. So I go to jail for my little 48 hours when I get out. I tell them because I'm already in fuck you mode. This is all right after my mom's murdered, and then the night that me and that girl got into that argument about with the card game and me tapping her in the face, that guy jumps on me, puts his hands on my throat. I start kicking him because I throw. I mean, my mom was just strangled to death. I pick him up and throw him off of me, and his girl's on the phone with 911. If the judge didn't let me listen to it the next day, I would have never believed it. But I guess I told her I was gonna beat her baby out of her because she was. And people, I'm not like I told you I was gonna tell you as raw as I could. I'm not proud of none of that. I'm not proud of what I did them time. What with any of that. I was no type of man then. I was going through so much shit and on so much shit, and you just sometimes in life you don't give a fuck and you'll do and say whatever, and that's where I was. So yeah. So he ends up. I was looking at aggravated assaults. I get the disorderly conduct, and I get 2 years paper. I ended up doing 10 months in jail for that, even because their last year paper, I was on so much shit that I just dipped. I was in New York City. Uh, I came back. They caught me once. They put me in jail. They let me back out. I didn't show up again. But this judge, though, he puts me in for 2 weeks for missing a court date, and I had to wait for another judge to come in while he was on vacation, sit in his seat, and let me see him to let me out because he wasn't letting me out. Now, why I don't have no idea to this day why it was like that, but that's how that judge treated me. Now, my mom was already fucking looked at as a bad person at this point. Growing up, I couldn't help what I was dealt. That was the cards I was dealt. That was my, but you don't take it out on me because I'm raised by these people. Just because I might do something small doesn't mean that you have to terrorize my life and make me live like some kind of horrible person just because you feel a certain way about other people. Now, I knew my mom had went in front of him many times. I knew that. I've been there for some of the cases. He sent her to prison. I knew all this. But don't take it out on me, dude. You deserve where you're at right now. So he so they sent me into prison for 10.5 months, and yeah, I don't want to talk about that. If people start subscribing to my channel and it comes to the point where you want to hear some real stuff, there's that right there, that 10.5 months when they sent me to prison. Yeah, you'll like to hear that story because that was a great time. But I can't talk about that on this, I'm sure. So, that was a wild time. Things that happened in that jail that I seen in there. Yeah, you'd have to subscribe and have to be deep to hear that. But this is no by far any kind of scam shit. Trust me. Anyways, so yeah, I'm guessing that's why he did it, though. I mean, he must have found him with my mother. Got mad about it. Went over. She probably can. She probably called for. That's what she would do if they got into a fight, just like the last time. She'll call him and say, "Look, I want to work things out. I don't want to be like this. The kids need you." And she probably called and said she missed her kids and wanted her family and didn't want to live like that. And he probably said, "Okay." Tells his dad to say he's with him, and goes and finds her and kills her. Or else, why would he even give me that notion? People, like, why would he do that? if there's two signatures on that thing, and this is so long ago, like, how they even get this fucking? They never asked for it. Then I'm sure they didn't give a fuck to know any of that. He probably just said, I was with my dad and I couldn't have done it, you know." And they're like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll check that." And if they see two names on that, it could have been the same person, right? But because they have the same fucking name. It wasn't the perfect fucking murder if it happened like that. It was done stupidly and taken care of by dumb people. Because I had been screaming it since about 2005. I went over there and started asking about DNA and shit. And so, yeah, that was how my mother was murdered and what happened and everything involved in it so far. Now, there's much more to come. I'm by far not even close to being done with this story yet. We have two more deaths to talk about, and sad they were just recent. But this whole thing, this plot thickens, the story gets better. It's not related except by me. So stay tuned. And yeah, I don't want to say it gets better because, I mean, a story like this isn't really good. On your end, it might be. But the story gets better if anyone's interested, you know, in something like this. Real life, someone growing up with everything you name of under the sun that has to do with criminal shit. Yeah, I've seen it all, and I've been through it all, and I'm still going through it all. But I have built my life to be something and do something with it. And that's why I'm doing these videos, because I'm still not living right. But I know if this picks up and people want to hear about it and see it, it might help monetize me enough to actually live a decent enough life to where I can do the things I need to do with it. So, thank you. Stay tuned.